Testing. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's hope this works. Yeah, hi guys. And as you can see, I am back to my screen recorder. And so today, I'm going to try a new thing. A consistent uploading schedule. I know. I'm going to try to upload at least a video once per week. Yeah, usually don't get my voice for at least a couple months. But anyways, what I'm doing today is this app can I want to read books, okay? And because I've read this book. I've been listening to this book on YouTube. It's called 1642. It's a really cool book. Basically, this town gets transported to the middle of Germany during the 30 Years' War, and they have like these machine guns versus fucking Germans with muskets and shit. It's really cool, and I felt like or some of these other books, trying like forget the album. That's a really cool time travel book too. Don't have like audiobooks on YouTube, so I'm gonna start that. Now the book I'm gonna read a portion of today is Harry Turtledove's After the Downfall. And if it's sideways, I'm sorry. So yeah, I'll just read this. This is a cool book. Basically, what it is like, if any of my audience is an anime fan, you'll know the popular anime genre isekai. It's this German captain, like he served on the Western Front for years. Like he was a German soldier before World War II had even begun. He was like in Poland, France, Russia, and he gets taken to another world during the Battle of Berlin. Like he touches this artifact and then gets transported, and he is able to take his MP4 and like trench shovel with him. It's pretty cool. I've read just a sample of it. I've never had a full book before. I haven't read too far into it, so let me just read you this. It's kind of like his world. There's like a big empire with advanced technology, aka it's a fantasy world, so they have like magic while the enemy doesn't. They have like good metal armor, metal swords, iron, while the enemy probably doesn't. They have copper, maybe iron swords, but they probably took them from the enemy. So it's like and also the stronger empire considers that have less advanced technology as barbarians and think of them as the master race. Think of themselves. So it's kind of like a Germans versus Jew kind of situation. So yeah, let's just read the description. From Harry Turtledove, the master of Olsen history, which he is, comes After the Downfall, a novel of magic, epic warfare, and desperate choices. 1945. Russian soldiers have entered Berlin and are engaged in a violent orgy of robbery, rape, and revenge. Weimar officer Hasso himself. Oh Christ. Yeah, this is gonna be whatever. A career soldier on the losing end of the greatest war in history flees from a sniper's bullet, finding himself hurtled into a mysterious, fantastic world of wizards, dragons, and unicorns. Then he allies himself with the blonde hair, blue-eyed Lenny. I'm not even pretend to be saying that right. So it's like Germans, blonde hair, blue-eyed baby demon. And Velonia, their goddess in human form, offering them his knowledge of warfare, guns, and weaponry in their genocidal struggle against the race of something Savory barbarians known as Grinny. So yeah, so there's like the blonde hair, blue eyed Lenny, whatever. They're the ones with the magic, while the other people, the barbarians, Jenny, don't. They have like iron swords and stuff like that. With the Jenny, the only iron swords they have are the ones they took from the Lenny. So they consider them barbarians, like German versus Jew situation. But soon the savagery of the Lenny begins to eat at also Pem cell's soul. Basically, he's like, yeah, oh yeah, okay. Cause him to question everything he's long believed about race and right and wrong. No. Also, Plasma will learn the difference between following orders and following his conscience. Basically, he's learning, yeah, we should have hated Jews. That was kind of a bad idea. And, yeah, just make sure it's still rolling, because I've had problems with that in the past. Now, let's finally get to the book. If for anybody wondering, yeah, because this thing doesn't, it just has location, so I'm not even sure where the fuck I'm going. I want to see how long it'll take to get the, just ignore everything. Ignore literally everything. Okay, so yeah, that's where I'm going to. At least for today. Let's go. Yeah, these are all his books that he's written before. Let me just start at the start. So these are his novels. I'll give you at least enough time to pause it if you want to look at them yourself. Yeah, the Sun and Victory series. It's a really good one. You should read it. I recommend it. I only have like the first 4 books, and I've only read part of the first one, but I've heard they're really good, and from what I've seen, yeah, because I've read about it on Wikipedia. I just watched this World War II documentary recently, and that's the bottom of the Days of Infamy series. Like, Japanese invade Hawaii and occupied to like 1943. Yeah, minor spoiler, but yeah, they do get kicked out, obviously. Berlin was falling in ruin, falling in fire, falling in blood. Back when the war was new, Goering said, you can call him Meyer, if a single bomb ever fell in the capital of the Reich. Had anyone held the Reichsmarschall to his promise, he would have changed his name a million times by now, because let's just say there were a lot of bombs falling on Berlin. Off topic. Goering never said a word about shells or machine gun bullets. Berlin. Back in those triumphant days, who could have imagined Germany would go to war with Russia? Not need to worry about Russia helped make destruction of France as easy as it was. And who could have imagined that if Germany did go to war with Russia, she wouldn't knock down the Slavic Ushmanson, probably means undesirable, in 6 weeks or so. Who could have imagined that those red subhumans would fight their way back from the gates of Moscow, back across their own country, across Poland, across eastern Germany, and into Berlin? Who could have imagined that the war was over, except for the last urge of killing in Berlin, and also the Pacific, and all the Führer's promised secret weapons hadn't done a thing to hold off Germany's inevitable total defeat. Yeah, a fun story. They actually had a plan for, like, of course, never designed it, but for this, like, space station that would go up into space and basically be a big magnifying glass, like, boil away at the soldiers. Naturally, never got into production at all. Also, they had a plan for this huge tank. Yeah, they talk about secret weapons that would have, like, the cannons on this tank would be that from a battleships. Yeah, imagine that, a tank so big it carried the cannons of a battleship. Yeah, of course, that never went into production either. Yes. Captain Holso Pemsel and what was left of his company crouched in the ruins of the old museum. The space between the spire and the Kupfergraben was Berlin's museum district. These days, the finest antiquities, like the goodest stuff, the goodest artifacts, were in G Tower next to the Tiergarten. People said the massive reinforced concrete anti-aircraft tower could hold out for a year after the rest of Berlin was lost. Maybe they would get the chance to find out if they were right. Yeah, because, well, Berlin's being completely sieged out at the moment. Yep, trying to see if it's still going. A Russian submachine gun burped bullets. Behind Holso, something shattered with a crash. Must have gone through 200s of... And the thing that shattered, it must have gone through 200s of 3,000 years of existence. Beside my own stuff, but our curator had to study it wasn't worth taking the G Tower. No one would study it anymore. That was for sure. Where was the Ivan? That's what the I guess the German nickname for the Russians back then, with the burp gun. Where was the Ivan with the burp gun? Pemsel spotted motion behind a pile of rubble. He squeezed off a short burst with his Schutzmeiser and ducked away to find fresh cover. A wild scream came from the direction of the heap of bricks and paving stones. It didn't alarm him into looking. The Russians were past masters at making pay if you fell for one of their games. Like if you looked like, what was that? Like it matters, also thought. You're going to die here any which way, sooner or later. What difference does it make? But even despite this, they're getting basically bum-fucked. But discipline held. So did a persuasive pride. He refused to do less than his best, even now. Maybe especially now. If the Russians wanted his carcass, he had to pay the butcher's bill for it. Meters away, his top sergeant was rolling a cigarette with weeds that might have been tobacco. Basically, stuff that might not have been tobacco, but it'll pass. And a strip of paper from the Din's Panzerbeer, which translates to the Panzer Bear, he's using stuff that might not have been tobacco, but it'll work nonetheless. And what he's using to roll up the tobacco is paper torn from a newspaper that is called the Armored Bear. And the Armored Bear was the last German newspaper going in Berlin. Even the Nazi party's Volk als Scher Beobachter had shut down. So yeah, I'm going to be talking a lot during this, so if you actually want a real audiobook, just go buy the official audiobook from Audible. Just look for After the Downfall. This is not it. Anyways, Karl Eldelsheim was good at making do. Like Hulso, he had been in the Weimar since even before the war. He is still here almost 4 years on the Eastern Front. Yeah, imagine that. Going from the invasion of Russia, Stalingrad, all those battles to this Battle of Berlin. You have to be pretty lucky, honestly. Like 27 million Germans, I think, died there. Do not take my word on it. Just look on Google, it's really easy. How much longer he or any of the German defenders would be here was a question also declined to dwell on. You don't want to think about death while in war. Instead, he said, got any more fixings? Fixings, I'm out. Pay attention to what was right in front of you, aka the tobacco. Yeah, because that's the thing in a lot of Harry Love books. It's smoking. You can forget about the bigger stuff till you couldn't anymore. Basically, he's asking him if he has any more cigarettes. Any more tobacco. Sure, Captain. Edelsheim passed him the tobacco patch and another strip of newspaper. Hassel rolls his own gently close to the... Must be German... Okay, his sergeant. Yeah, okay, some German word for sergeant. Or maybe even lighter. To the Feldwebel for a light. For anyone who knows German, just tell me how I'm saying it wrong. It'll be fun. Edelsheim blew out smoke and said, "We're fucked, aren't we?" Might have been talking about the weather for all the excitement or worry he showed. Something was not that worried. Well, yeah, obvious, but so. Well, now that you mention it, yes, Halsey didn't wail and beat his chest either. What was the point? What was the use? Can't was the use of complaining. Where are we going to go? Throw down your miser and surrender to the Ivans? Yeah, miser is basically a German bolt action rifle thing. I'd sooner make him kill me clean, Edelsheim said it once. Yeah, okay, this is the point where I read up to once I bought this book. And I didn't really even read this when I had the preview. I just kind of skipped ahead. I have a habit of doing that. Anyways, the Russians were not in a forgiving mood. After some of the things Halso had seen and done in the East, he knew they had their reasons. Edelsheim had fought there longer. Chances were he knew more. Or about, war crimes. Another burst of submachine gun fire made them both flatten out on the floors of the old museum. They might have been ready to die, but near one was eager. Also had seen a few Waffen SS officers, realizing Germany could not prevail, go out against the islands looking for death, almost like Japanese suicide pilots. Kamikaze! But he didn't feel that way. He wanted to live. He just thought his chances were lousy. Most of the bullets thudded into the wall in back of him. Wait, should be thudded into the wall to the back of him. Oh, whatever. One sprang off something instead. The sound made Halso turn around. To Weimar just saw a stone. This is the artifact that brings the other world. It was perhaps a meter across of brownish gray granite. It looked as if it were dumped there at random, but like the other exhibits in the museum, it had a sign above it explaining what it was. I'm gonna go. I'll be right back. Wait, don't want. Halos. It said, and then in Greek words was presumably the same thing. I'll be right back. Hold on. So I went to Google Translate, and apparently it's omphalos. But anyways, what the devil's an omphalos? Sounds like a fruit. He asked Edelsheim. A couple of Russians scrambled out to drag off a wounded med, presumably one of their own. He didn't find them. A minute's worth of truce wouldn't matter. Beats me, the sergeant answered. Animal, vegetable, and mineral. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like a vegetable or something. Mineral. Hasso jerked a thumb over his soldier. Eind L.E. Delsheim looked then shrugged. I say that honking rock is not mineral. What the hell is it? It's Greek to me. Looks whatever Greek. Halso said, but he's curious enough to drag over to read the smaller printing under the heading. What? When the world was falling to pieces around you, why not indulge yourself in small ways if you could? You won't get the chance for anything bigger. That seemed much too clear. I want to get the chance for much bigger things. He's going to be dead soon. So why not read some museum thing? Well, they filled Bell asked. The Omphalos stone from Zeus's temple at Delphi was reputed to be the navel of the world, Halso read. It was the center and the beginning, according to the ancient Greeks, and also a joining place between this world and others. Brought to Berlin in 1893 by Herr Dr. Professor Maximilian Eugen von Heide Kampf. It has rested here ever since. Professor von... Oh, I'm not even going to pretend to read that. Unfortunate disappearance during I'm not even attempt to read that. The professor's unfortunate disappearance during an imperial reception here 2 years later. I think 1895, something they're trying to say. So he disappeared 2 years after he was brought to Berlin. Anyways. Professor's unfortunate disappearance during an imperial reception here 2 years later has never been completely explained. Ha, Eldesheim said. What do you want to bet some pretty girl disappeared about the same time? I wouldn't be surprised, but Halso's eyes went back to the card. And also a joint place between this world and others. I'll tell you, Carl, this world doesn't look so good right now. Yeah, it's the Battle of Berlin. Anywhere else. Maybe anywhere else. And so pluck your ass down the rock and see what happens, the sergeant advised. How could you be worse off, no matter where you end up? The shooting picked up again. Someone not far away started screaming a high shrill note, like a saw biting into a nail. Probably one of the German soldiers getting shot, either like a German or Russian soldier getting shot by Germans or Russians. Somebody's getting shot. The shriek went on and on. There was no sham. That was a desperately hurt man, one who would die soon, but not soon enough to suit him. Shooting picked up again. So probably more likely a German, have at least some defensible positions, and kind of from the human-ish wave tactics. Of course, the Russians used tactics, but let's not kid yourself. They also did mass human wave charges. So it's probably Russian, but it's not important. Good question, Halso said. Another world is same Same old fucked up place. Here goes nothing. The patch suit of his field grade pants came down on the navel stone. Sergeant Eldesheim turned his head. Turned his head to jeer at the captain while he was on the rock. The whole goddamn country was on the rocks now. This is pretty funny when he's on the rocks. What the? One instant, Captain Pencil was there. Next, he was gone, as if by trick photography in the movies. Basically, special effects. He might never have been. He might never have been in the museum with Eldelsheim. Dear hell, Gott ab Himmler! Him what? So in mad hope searched for the sergeant. If there was a way out, any way out, what he told Half Pencil was true for himself too. Wherever he went, how could he be worse off? He turned and half upright, scrambled towards the omphalos. Half upright, turned to be a little too high. A burst from the machine gun slammed home between his shoulder blades. He went down over a groan, blood filling his mouth. One hand reached for the nail stone, reached, scraping just short of its goal, fell quiet forever. Another Russian troopers who overran the museum probably some Russian swear word, carried basically shit for an ugly lump of rocks they could neither sell nor screw nor even have any fun breaking. Okay, this is him going to the fantasy world. The inflows seemed to steer beneath him. Also, Pencil wondered for a heartbeat if he was losing his mind. He hadn't really expected anything to happen other than his butt to be sore. Hadn't really believed anything. He hadn't really believed anything could happen. But then again, no one expects to get isekai'd. What he believed didn't matter. Not anymore. He mounted the rock with hope in his heart. It's enough. Far more than enough. This shit's wonderful. He hung suspended for a timeless moment. What did Hamlet say? Oh God! I could be bound in a nutshell and count myself a king of infinite space where not I have bad dreams. That came to also only later, at the time, if time was the word flash of existence apart from anything. Basically, there was nothing except him, kind of, for a moment. Not only that, whatever else it was no dream. And then he was back in the world again. Back in any world, anyhow. And he was falling. He dropped straight down, maybe a meter, maybe two, surely no more than that. Or he would have hurt himself when he landed. Or maybe not. He came down in a bog that put him... or maybe a meter, maybe two, surely no more than that. Or he would have hurt himself when he landed. Or maybe not. Maybe it could have been more. He came down in the bog that put him in mind of the purple marshes on the Russo-Polish border. Also, so he came down in some marshes, like some mud. Whatever. Training tolls. As soon as he knew he was wading water and mud, his hands went to keep his weapon dry. A Schutzmeiser was a splendid piece when it was clean, but it couldn't take as much crude in the works as a Soviet Pepesh. British Stern. So if you wonder what a Schutzmeiser is, it's an MP40. You guys know what an MP40 is. If you know anything about World War II, you know what an MP40 is. You know. So, give me a second here. I just want to see how long it's going to take, because I'm just doing chapter 1. Ooh. Just ignore everything you saw. Anyways, he floundered toward the higher ground ahead. The setting sun, or was it rising, flouted the unproposing landscape with blood red light. That was one. Oh yeah, that was one more impossibility because it'd been in the middle of the day at Berlin. So rather is settling or rising. Either way, it was in the middle of the day in Berlin. Also shrugged and squelched on a shot the moment he plopped his can down the Umflaus. Maybe this was nothing but a bad hallucination before the lights went out for good. You had to act as if it was real. He's had too many years fighting to quit now. He'd been wounded 3 times! Jeez. probably shot in the ass with this one. He was damned if he'd throwed in the sponge for no good reason. Maybe I'm damned anyway, he muttered. He's struck again. If he was, he couldn't do anything about that either. I'm sorry. I like these good ass stars. He hauled himself onto dry land. So basically not a bog. Because remember, he landed in a bog, mud. Yeah, water and mud. A bog. Basically, you want to. Yeah, so it was like a swamp, more or less. Hauled himself up onto dry land. As he did, he realized it was artificial, not a natural feature of the swamp at all. It was a causeway, long and straight, not very wide, with a well-kept dirt road atop of it. So basically, it's like a little pathway through the swamp. It's like a bridge through the swamp. Someone needs to go from here to there in a hurry, and the swamp happened to lay athwart. And the swamp happened to lay athwart the shoreways. Basically, someone needed to go from a place to that place in a hurry, and they found that the swamp was the shortest way to get there. But it's a swamp, so they had to build a causeway and a dirt path. So they had to make a path. They had to clear out the swamp a bit and make a path that can actually travel through the swamp. So they made a path. So they went and they cleared out a section of the swamp and made a dirt road so they could actually pass through the swamp, because you don't want to travel through a swamp on foot. So yeah, it was artificial. It's not there naturally. It's created so somebody can go through the swamp, since it's the shortest path to somewhere to somewhere. I should shut the fuck up. You stooped to examine the road horn. Sorry, I just gotta make sure it's not fucking quitting on me. My memory's kind of shit. He stooped to examine. Oh, hold on. Shit, I really should. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Someone badly needed to get from here to there in a hurry. This causeway would have taken a devil of lot of work to build. Well, with magic, you can do anything. He stooped to examine the road. The long shadows of sun cast. It was definitely setting. Showed no trace of tire tracks or tread marks from panthers or assault guns. I wonder why. They did show footprints and hoof prints. Some showed, others not. I don't know what. It must be a horse term. Something like that. There were unmistakable lumps of horse dung. Hand tools, which were probably, medieval hand tools I would probably drop. Hand tools, then, almost certainly. Which meant, also shrugged once more. He had no idea what the hell it meant. It meant he wasn't in Kansas anymore. Tina was wrong when he got to Germany, just before the war started. I don't think he was ever in Kansas. Also, Paul's hand tools, almost certain. So I guess there was some dropped hand tools on the road, or there were prints of hand tools in the road. But then shortly after, but almost immediately after the drops are picked up. I should shut the fuck up. A flash of motion on the road, off to the east. Her also consciously realized he needed to do it. He slid into cover, sprawling on the steeply sloping slide on the steeply sloping slide of the causeway. All the time he spent fighting the Ivans had driven one lesson home. Down at a level far below thought, so it's kind of subconscious. Unexpected motion spelled trouble. Big trouble. Ever so cautiously, MP40 Asbury, that's what I'm going to say. He raised his hand for a better look. As he did, he wondered how many magazines from the machine pistol he had left. 4 or 5, he thought. What would he do once he used them up? He gutted out a syllable's worth of mirthless laughter. He damn well do without. That was what? So I was riding up the road. Jordan Hall. No, not somebody. Somebody. Not Betty. Several somebodies. One in the lead. The rest
between 50 and 100 meters behind. The leader ran with an athlete's long, sloping strides. The others pounded along, showing not much form but great determination. The dying sun flashed off sharp metal in their hands. They were armed, and the man in the lead didn't seem to be. A few seconds later, as the leader drew closer, also sucked in a short, startled breath. That was no man running for his life. It was a woman running for hers. Sorry. Okay. She was tall and blonde and slim, and the rags she wore covered enough of her to keep her technically decent, but no more. More. If she hadn't been very wearied on to death, she would have left her pursuers in the dust. Remember, it's fine, whatever. Don't remember anything. I've kind of seen this book, so I'm going to try not to spoil anything. Her build and her hand said she was used to running in a way they weren't and never would be used to. Besides, sweat pulsated her hair. Sweat pulsated her fair hair to her face. Painfully, she was at the end of her tether. Many more kilometers had she run already, knowing it would be the end if she faltered even once. Halsey's heckles rose when he got a good look at the man who trotted after her. They were short and squat and dark, with curly black hair, and the shadows of stubble on their cheeks and chins. One of them carried a hatchet and a pitchfork. The third was also at first took to be the sword, but then realized it was a stout kitchen carving knife. I'm gonna kill you with this kitchen carving knife. I'm a cannibal. I'm not. The woman glided past him. Her head didn't turn his way. She must not have seen him dive for cover. Not surprising, not with the sun in her face the way it was. Also, I just remember something about this book. I think there's some. They do heavily plot. They do more or less say that there is sex in this book. He doesn't describe it that much, but he does say there is. Doesn't just apply. He says there is, but yeah, just warning. Should have said. Anyways, she didn't look back to see how close her enemies were. All her attention was on the way ahead. He admired that even more. He admired, her focus. He admired that even more than he admired her elegantly chiseled features. She would go on as long as she could, so she prepared with every line of her body, but her harsh panting said she couldn't go on much longer. Her pursuers were worn too, but not so worn as she. They could still talk to one another as they ran, their harsh, gurgled voice, but nothing to hold. So it was brushing but then he hadn't really realized these were the perpet's marshes either. I guess I didn't read that. Whatever, it's fine. Either. Deciding what to do and deciding. That's my dog. Deciding what to do and deciding what to do and doing it were quick, easy, almost automatic. Just before the three strong men came aggressively, little and gave the leader, the one with the pitchfork, a short burst in the chest. So yeah, imagine you're a medieval guy. You're running with a pitchfork at this woman for whatever reason. I'm not saying that. And then you get killed with a wound to the chest by an asshole with an MP40, which you don't even know the concept of gunpowder. It's just not fair. The fellow crumbled, also shot the man with the curving knife. So the man with the hatchet showed an admirable presence of mind. He flung the weapon at Halsey just before one more burst from the Schmidt's MP40 caught him in the midsection of his chest or head. The Weimar captain ducked. The hatchet spun past, less than half a meter above his head. It splashed into the swamp. Imagine that. You're basically 3 men in the road. Sorry, I'm just trying to look at this. It's basically, imagine the hatchet guy is in the center. The pitchfork guy is in the center. He gets shot. The guy say the guy to the right or left, depending on your view. The guy with the knife, to the pitchfork guy's left, or to your right. Right is like the guy to the pitchfork guy's left, or to your right is the one with the knife. You get shot to. Then the guy to the pitchfork guy's left, or to your then the guy to the pitchfork guy's right or your left. Pitchfork guy's right, your left. It's the one with the hatchet. Throws it at him, but before it lands, he gets killed by the gun. Gets killed by the MP40, and then he ducks just before it hits him. He scrambled to his feet, ready to finish off, and the three who still showed fight, but they were all dead or dying fast. Looked down the road in the direction from which they came. Were there more like him? Were more like them trotting along in their way? He didn't see anybody else, not for a couple of kilometers. Slowly he turned toward the women. She stopped when she heard the gunfire, because, yeah, after you're meeting a woman and you hear, like, or, like, you're like, what the fuck? She was trying to catch her breath, her head down, her hands on her knees. After most of a minute, she straightened, looking at him with as much curiosity as he felt about her. Curiosity wasn't the only thing. Curiosity wasn't the only thing he felt. She seemed striking as she had ran past him. Now he saw that striking was much too mild a word. She'd been probably outrageously beautiful. She was only a product of his wild imaginings. In the split second before the pain of a mortal wound seized him, he had more imagination than he ever imagined. She said something, whatever tongue it was. Didn't understand a word of it. He didn't care to her forever. No matter what she said, her voice was a honeyed caress. She stopped expectantly. He realized he needed to answer. I'm sorry, I don't understand in German. A tiny frown ceased the perfect skin between her eyebrows. She didn't understand him either. She didn't follow him either. He said the same thing in French. She remembered from school. Then in bad Russian acquired up the front. She shook her head each time. But she understands that this person doesn't understand what the fuck she's saying. She slowly walked toward him. Little by little, he realized what a mess he was. Filthy, unshaven, in a wet, muddy, shabby uniform. He would have apologized if only he knew how. She pointed that man to the machine pistol and said something that had to be questioned. Killed him with that? What else could she be asking? You know, I did for him, alright. He stuck to German from then on. Why not? Because he'd be sure of what he was saying. He jabbed a thumb of his own at his own chest and told her what his name was. Pencil. Also Pencil. She repeated thoughtfully. So he said what his name was. Pencil, Hassel, Pencil. And then she repeats this. She repeated thoughtfully. His name had never sounded so good as it did in her mouth. She laid an index finger between her small, upstanding breast. Valonia, she said. So Valonia. So let me just show the description, because fuck you, spoilers now. Yeah, she's the goddess in human form. And then she's like kind of a goddess. Like she has a god possessing body, so that's why she was able to run for so long and so goodly. But doesn't last forever. And she was at the end of her ropes. She couldn't use her goddess powers for much longer. She wouldn't be able to use her goddess powers for much longer when he, with his MP40, saved her. So yeah. So basically, the energy she wasn't going to be able to use her goddess powers for much longer. The energy was running out when she was maybe about to start slowing down, after which the barbarians would catch up to her and try to kill her. He saved her with his MP40. Basically, she was running out of breath, running out of energy, God's powers, yada yada yada. I should shut the fuck up. Spoilers. Ooh, cold scuttle. Yes. Stahlhelm. touched the brim of his coal scuttle hat, echoing Velonia. Couldn't make her name seem nearly so wonderful as she did his. Also, Pulsum, she said again. There's something else that had his name. There's something else that had his name in it. So she said something about his name. Something else that had his name in it. Oh, so she said like something in his name, like maybe Wholesome Pencil is the weirdest name I've ever heard. Like some quip about his name. She said something about his name. When he just stood there, she laughed at herself. She must have forgotten he couldn't follow what she was saying. Oh no. What she did next didn't need any words. She pulled off the torn and tattered shirt. Also couldn't come up with a better name for it. She was wearing it, spread it out in the middle of the road. And naked, she's naked now, and laid down on it. She beckoned to him to join her. Like I said, it's going to get graphic. She spread it out in the middle of the road. And naked. Spread out in the middle and naked. And lay down on it. She spread it out in the middle of the road and naked, lay down on it. She beckoned to him to join her. Just whatever. His jaw fell. He almost dropped the MP40. What went through his mind was, "You're a hero, pal. He's a reward." Beats the hell out of the Knight's Cross, doesn't it? Even with swords and oak leaves. That's what he has. Damn, this guy's professional. Imagination definitely didn't work this well. He saved a couple of German women from death, or fate worse than, or both before. Wait, what? He saved a couple of German women from death, or fate worse than, or both before. They didn't want to screw him afterwards, or say to. They didn't want to screw him afterwards. Say thank you. They wanted to go off somewhere and have hysterics. That seemed reasonable enough to him. What the? Oh, what the fuck? Oh god, this is gonna get graphic. Oh, sorry kids, you should be watching this. I can't do Mickey Mouse really well. Yeah, viewers' voice, parental guidance, parental advice. But, anyways, Velonia was plainly different in all kinds of ways. She played by way different rules. When she spoke again, he was with a touch of impatience. "You waiting for a big boy?" In case he was a congenital idiot, she twitched her hips and opened her legs a little. He looked up the road again. Nobody. He looked down the road. Also still nobody. Two of them were the only light people for quite a ways. It was lay her or jump in the swamp. If you're sure, he stopped, feeling dumb. If he wasn't sure she was auditioning for a stag film, she'd get the part too. Really still worried, he got down beside her. She nodded as if to say, "It's about time." His clothes. He was careful to keep himself between her and them. Oh no. Okay, let's just stop. When he told him he's careful to keep himself between her and them, and between her and the MP40. But she wasn't interested in the uniform or the weapon. Not then. Her hands roamed him, soft and hard at the same time. He stroked her too. All felt more thrill than a Max Ernest painting, but he didn't care. It was a figment of his dying imagination. His brains were working overtime. He was less and less inclined to believe that, though everything was too vividly detailed, from the grittiness of the hard-packed dirt to the sweaty heat of Volonia's flesh to the way her breath stirred. There was left here. Oh, this is getting really graphic. I didn't think you were allowed to explain things like this way. Harry, the hell, dude? He rapidly discovered that under the curve, she had muscles to rival an Olympic athletes. That's the goddesses. That's the goddess part. Well, the way she ran had already told him that much. He was broader than the shoulders. He was broader through the shoulders, wider than her. Broader through the shoulders. Spar food soldiers probably outweighed her by 20 kilos, but he wasn't sure which of them was the stronger. Then she kissed him, and he stopped caring. Had he run all that way? So if he ran all that way, he thought his mouth, like if he run that distances, he thought his mouth would have been dry as dust. Hers was warm and moist and sweet. His hand slipped between her legs. She was warm and moist here too. She made a small sound of pleasure down deep in her throat. He fingered her. Her hand closed on him. He made the same sound, only an octave deeper. Her hand closed on him. So he just grabbed his dick. She grabbed his dick more or less. At this point, when she broke off the kiss, down deep in her throat. Yeah, they're kissing at the moment. He fingered her and he grabbed his. This is really graphic. Might as well have been saying that. They might as well be saying that. They're not. Broke off the kiss, but only for a moment. Limber as an eel, she bent to take him in her mouth. So another kiss thing. Not sure he'd ever had a woman do that without. He wasn't sure he'd ever had a woman do that before he had a woman do that before without being asked. He also wasn't sure how much he could stand without exploding. So, yeah, exploding. Oh. Bent, I just realized I'm a fucking idiot. Bent to take him in her mouth. So I'd hardly crossed his mind before she pushed him down and over onto his back and impaled herself on him. PP and VJJ. She rode him like a racehorse. What the fuck? She made that pleased noise again. His hands closed on her She teased his nipples too. He hadn't thought that they were especially sensitive, but they were. So she twisted his nipples too. And he squeezed her BBs. Jeez, this is fucking graphic. Jeez, gosh. As his pleasure rose toward the crest, Dad said he would have to come soon. So he's going to come in soon. He decided he'd rather drive things himself, and he rolled the two of them over Belonia, let out a startled yelp and then laughed. So did he, poised himself, buffering and thrust home and get it. Jesus Christ, Harry turtled up. You might as well be saying that he's boinking her. Christ almighty. Her breath came faster than it had before she was running. Her face went slack with pleasure. She gasped. Pencil. Also pencil shredded. Shrill voice. Her nails scored his back. Her wordless groan escaped him at the same time. He dove deep one last time and tried to stay at the peak forever. So I think he just come to her. I shouldn't. Fucked. So kitties, when mommy and daddy love each other very much. Whether he wanted to or not, the world returned the way it always does. Belonia said something. He couldn't understand it, of course. Understood when she minded pushing him off her. He had to be squashing her, and that ragged shift wasn't much to protect her from the ground. He went back onto his knees. She got to her feet and brushed as much of the dirt off her behind she could before she put the clothes back on, or the rags, or the shift. The shift, aka the clothes, aka more or less the rags, but shift, clothes, rags, however you want to say it. Also did the same thing. Put his shit after trying to get as much of the dirt, after brushing off as much dirt as possible, he put his clothes back on. His clothes were more complicated than hers. He took a little longer to dress. By the time he finished, she was walking back toward the men he'd killed. She didn't let love making distract her long. Her dresser could only mean one thing: pitched him in the swamp. Two of them wore rawhide boots. He pointed those into her feet. Did she want them if they fit? Valonia shook her head and looked revolting. Greenie, she aided, pointing to the corpses. Greenie, to her, the word must have explained something. It didn't explain one damn thing to Hulsa, but he wasn't inclined to be critical, and Valonia wasn't fussy about grabbing Greenie boots, whatever those were, only about wearing them, until the water him up with the bodies, the knife, and pitchfork. The hatchet was already in the swamp, and the boots were also yeeted into the swamp. Bodies come back up soon enough. Hulsa knew that too well. Valonia also knew that. She didn't care. She nodded as at a job well done. Where now? Hulsa asked her, as if she understood. Maybe she did, for she linked arms with him and stared west down the road, the same direction she'd begun before, but not the same killed pace. As the sun kissed the western horizon, also slipped his arm around her waist. She smiled and swayed close and rested her head on his shoulder for a moment. He had no idea what he'd just volunteered for, but she made one hell of a recruiter. Just give me a second here, guys. Yeah, so we got some shit to go. Just give me a moment. Crack my neck. On. Okay, let's go. Castle Savagrag struck also as well as medieval. What else would a castle be? Operation Castle Bravo. It had no running water, though there was a well. It was a long drop from the It was a long drop from the seat. Oh, there's a bathroom. Think of porta potty. It was a long drop from the seat in the garderobe to where the shit landed. But that was as close as the place came to sophisticated plumbing. Basically, it's a big hole where your shit would go. Fire and torches and candles and oil lamps. Oh my! Gave light after sundown. Food was either very fresh or else smoked or salted or dried. None of Valonia's people knew anything about canning or refrigeration. Had also fallen to this world in 1938. It's basically, if he got to the world in 1938, he would have thought it too primitive to bear. Coming here in 1945, he done without running water and flush toilets and electricity and refrigeration for 5.5 years. He missed them much less than he would have back in the days when he took them for granted. There were compositions he never had in Poland or France or Africa or on the Eastern Front. So he's on all those shits. Oh, there were compositions. Oh yeah, he kept boinking. Valonia kept coming to his bed. She started teaching him local language, and she vouched for him with the castle's commander, a Dor noble, Hulsa thought, named Martolis. Hulsa wouldn't have wanted Martolis angry at him, the commandant, whatever, commandant was close to a head taller than he was, and proportionally broad through the shoulders. He's basically really buff. Average men along the Len Eli, Valonia's people, stood close to 2 meters tall, and some, like Martolis, were considerably bigger than that. Alright, they had yellow hair, blue or green or gray eyes, granite cheekbones, and chins like cliffs. So basically they're like what Hitler thought of Aryans back in the Reich. Hulsa had been a big man. Here he was, this silently The short, the Lenny had never heard the name of Arian. Yeah, like I said, well, they exemplified the ideal to all of them but Valonia. The first impression seemed to be that he barely measured up to them. It's like he measured up to Valonia, but then again, don't want to be don't want to be sexist here, but males sometimes are shorter than males. Just saying. They wanted a bruiser called Sholsef, who's almost Meritos's size, picked a fight with him. Also, yeah. So also got the idea was as much to see what would you do as if for Eddie. Also got the idea it was much to see what he would do as for any real reason. So any real reason could be that see what he would do, like how good he would fight. As for any real reason, except maybe boredom. Wait, sorry, guys. Also got the idea it was as much to see what he would do as for any real reason, except if that's for the real reason, except maybe boredom. Out of what passed for fair play with Lenny. Lenny Sholsef made sure also understood that they were fighting. But they were fighting, for he uncorked a haymaker that would have. They were fighting before he uncorked a haymaker would have knocked off. So that they were fighting before he haymaker like Big Fist. Haymaker would have knocked Mike some boxer Schmenling's head off. Would have knocked his head off had it landed, but it didn't. Unlike Mike Schmenling's also wasn't in the ring. They didn't have to box with Schulzef. Weimar combat structures taught all sorts of dirty but highly effective techniques. Action on the Russian front was a whole separate education. Also grabbed Schulzef's arm just behind the waist. Half a second later, Schulzef flew through the air with the greatest of ease. It's a big guy, almost as big as that other commandant guy. Whatever. Big Lenny Illo had time to begin a startled grunt, but it caught abruptly when he slammed down on the. We slammed down on the rammed earth floor of Castle Savrag's great hall. Grabbed his arm just behind the waist. I don't know the technique, but visualize it for yourself. The only problem. Also had hoped that would put him out of action, but he started to get up. The Weimar captain kicked him in the ribs and had to skip back in a hurry for alarm arms snaked down and almost tripped him up. So he kicked him in the ribs, and then the other guy tried to grab his legs. He didn't want to get locked in a grapple with Schulzef, not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. Boot to the rib cage made the Lenny flatten out again. Also darted in and kicked him once more, this time in the side of the head. Not too hard. Hard enough, though. Also groaned. Schulzef groaned and went limp. Picture sat on the table. He meters away. Also walked past a dozen staring Len Elo warriors. Picked it up and poured 2 liters of not very good beer over Schulzef's head. The big man groaned and sputtered. His eyes open. He made a horrible face and clenched at his temples. The Weimar officer nodded to himself. Cushion, sure as hell. Schulzef would be worth the paper he is printed on. So he wouldn't be that good a warrior. Schulzef wouldn't be worth the paper he's printed on for the next few days. Basically, he wouldn't be able to fight good for the next few days, more or less. Very good for the next few days. Another then Elo said something to Halso. It's probably, how the devil did you do that, you shrimp? Inward sigh. Halso made a gesture, inviting him to fight out for himself. Shouted down one of those big apes would cream him. But how many he smashed up first would go. But how many he would smash up first before he got knocked out himself would go a long way towards showing where he fit back in order. show how he fit in the pecking order. He flattened 4 and 5th on the roads before the fellow landed below to his solar PX that folded him up like an accordion. Couldn't do a thing about it either. Lenny was groggy, not too groggy to fall on him like a landslide and thump him. I don't get it. Okay. He flattened 4 and had a 5th on the ropes before the fellow landed below to the solar PX that folded him up like an accordion. He couldn't do a thing about it. He couldn't do a thing about it either. Fire back. Leno was groggy, but not too groggy to fall on him like a landslide, like pummel him and thump him Okay, so the other guy, the guy that's fighting him, couldn't do a thing about the advantage he had now that Holso is really vulnerable. He kind of knocked out of the fight for a little bit. Not too groggy, falling like a landslide, thump him while he couldn't fight back. Holso got paid back for some of what he did to the soldier's friends. He knew that would happen too, which didn't make it any more enjoyable while it was going on. When he could, he got up and washed the dirt and blood off his face. Lenny behind his back, which hurt almost as much as getting beaten up hard. It's basically like Pouty's back, like, hell yeah, man, you're really good. He pressed mug after mug of that indifferent beer to his hands. He drank everything they gave him. He would numb him a little, any which way. It was less likely to give him the runs than the local water. Solseth asked him something. That battered would-be tough guy was drinking beer too. His head had to be killing him. Also didn't understand the question, but it was bound to be something like, "Where did you learn all this stuff?" And Orlando made cutting throat motions and shook his head. Okay. Another Lando made cutting throat motions and shook his head as he asked his own question. That had to be, so how come you can't use a sword worth a damn? Also shrugged. No one ever bothered to teach him a weapon like that. He had no trouble with a spear. If he could fight with a bayoneted rifle and an entrenching tool, the spear drill was a piece of cake. He used a crossbow too once he figured out how to crank it up to reload. Its bolts flew flat and straight like bullets. Lenny even had sights to aim along. But on the other hand, calm hopeless gave him the benefit of the doubt. Someone in the watchtower winded a horn with one long flat note. The warriors relaxed. It meant more Lenny on the road approaching. There was more Lenny on the road approaching Castle Sava Rag. Whatever. A series of short blasts would have been trouble. The Granny sneaking around again. Also wasn't sure how things worked around here. He hadn't seen enough of this world yet. Hadn't seen any of it, in fact, except for the swampy stretch of road between rescued Valonia and this castle. But Lenny seemed to have undesirable problems like the Reich had in Russia. Here on the frontier, and this was the frontier planning. The big blonde warriors controlled towns, castles, and when they traveled in forests, the roads between them. The countryside belonged to the local barbarians. Shouts came from outside the castle. Who was who around here was pretty obvious. Even so, the newcomers and guards went through the rigmarole of sign and countersign. This made Holso chuckle, which hurt his sore stomach and bruised ribs. He might be in another world, but a lot of army rituals stay the same. Worked one place, worked in another. People remained people. So, it's basically the newcomers and guards through the rigmarole of signing and countersigning, like saluting and counter-saluting. Like, I salute the general, like I salute an officer and he salutes me, or something like that. Arm rituals. Chains rattled and clanked as Greeny servants, or maybe they were slaves, lowered the drawbridge. Horses' hooves thundered on the thick oak. So now they're putting down the drawbridge so the guys can enter enter the castle, but I thought they were from outside of the castle. He was on top of the castle. Whatever. Horses hooved, thundered on the thick oak timbers, face with iron on the outside to ward against the drawbridge. Face with iron on the outside of the drawbridge, aka if the drawbridge was drawn up, that the iron is what you would see to ward against fire as a new case. Like the drawbridge is drawn up, you would see iron on the bottom, on the bottom, aka the outside to ward against fire. So the drawbridge couldn't be burned. So like if during like a battle or a siege, the drawbridge couldn't just be burned, and then afterwards, there's any attackers. Yeah, so basically, iron to make sure like the drawbridge doesn't get like burned by the attackers, and after they burn the drawbridge, because if they burn the drawbridge, they could, even through heavy casualties, just make a bridge of their own, laid across the trench or moat, so that they can get. Why am I assuming there is a moat? Probably is a moat. Drawbridges make sure they can't get in. But rather it be a trench, a moat, or a trench or a moat. They could just make a bridge for themselves to get through one side to the other. Make sure even if it is pretty bloody, or they could just burn the drawbridge and then just charge through the gate, even with heavy casualties. But that's why there's irons. I go on tangents. I'm sorry. I always go on tangents. That's this series, the After the Downfall series. You're going to hear a lot of tangents. Get ready for that. Yes, as the new arrivals rode in, as one man, the Lenny in the Great Hall. One man at a time. The Lenny in the Great Hall went out to see what was what. They were as eager for news and gossip as any garrison on an isolated post, and they didn't have radios. But they turned out to see what was what. In fact, everybody who was tall and fair anyhow. So maybe not Granny Soldier, but Martosis trampled out half a minute or so behind the warriors in the Great Hall. More soldiers came out of the stables. Valonia and other women took places between the men and in front of the men. Everybody was tall and fair anyhow. Valonia started to smile also, but expression froze when she saw he'd been knocked around. Not as if to tell her he was alright. You should see the yard. Seemingly rusty chainmail. They were all stamped out. Half a dozen men. They were all stamped from the same mold as the soldiers in the garrison. So basically, the 5 knights were similar to the soldiers that were garrisoning the castles. Basically, the knights were similar to the soldiers that were at the castle. The 6th was something else. He rode a unicorn. Also blinked and rubbed his eyes. Unicorns was stuff of myth and legend, except this one wasn't. Yeah, imagine that. You're a guy from like 1945. You fought on you joined the Weimar way before World War II, not like way before. You fought in Poland, France, North Africa, Russia, and then you see a fucking unicorn. Its horn was silvered, and so were its hoofs. They all shone even brighter in the sun than the unicorns. So they shone even brighter than the unicorn's pure white coat and mane and tail. So the sun was even brighter than the unicorn's pure white coat and pure white mane and pure tail. Yeah, let me show you something again. Whatever, come on. This is the art. Yeah, you probably saw this, but I'm showing you again. Yeah, that's him on a fucking unicorn. Yeah, say about a fucking unicorn. Isn't that badass? German officer on a unicorn. Its lines. Okay, yeah, its lines made the big, heavier horses around it look as if they were carved by a sculptor who was earnest, well attentioned, and more than a bit of a blockhead. It's basically that unicorn compared to the other horses was way better. It looked way better than the other horses. Anyways, Ryder made this knight seem the same way, like looked way more grandiose than the knights. The rider of the unicorn looked way more grandiose than the knights, like the unicorn was. The rider made the knights seem the same way. He wore polished jack boots that would have gladdened the heart of an SS man on parade. Tight sundu breeches, and I'm not gonna pretend that I'm saying that right. And a clinging shirt of shimmering bright green cloth that should have looked efficient, like not good at all. Like shouldn't look really good, but somehow didn't. Like, someone tell me in the comments what this word means. I don't really know. But somehow didn't. Like the unicorn's horns and hooves, his conical helm, his helmet was silvered and flashed in the sunlight. Ignore that. Flash in the sunlight. Only his stored, a business-like, cross-hilted weapon in a battered leather sheath. Said he wasn't a refugee from the set of a bad movie. Graceful as a cat, he slid down from the unicorn. Also expected him to march up to Maritos, giving orders. His harsh, handsome features were those of a man who used to be obeyed, and at once. Oh, so the harsh features of this man were those of a man who was used to being obeyed, and who was used to being obeyed at once. The stranger showed up to Hulsup himself. He'd hold out both hands to clasp, as Lenny usually did in greeting. Said he sketched a star. Instead, he sketched a star in the air between them. It glowed with gold fire from it before fading. Hulse's eyes widening even more than he did when he saw the unicorn. Unicorns were merely legendary. It also felt impossible, but it happened anyway. You saw? The stranger demanded. And Lenio. Yes. Oh. And Lenio. Yes, he spoke. Yes, the stranger, the guy who's talking to him, spoke his own language. He spoke in Lenio, but also understood as readily as if it were German. That was impossible too, but as true as the glowing golden star, as true as a unicorn's switching tail. I saw all right. How the devil did you do that? The policeman answered. I saw all right. How the devil did you do that? Pencil answered in German, and the man in boots and breeches and silk also answered him. Okay, seems like magic. Okay, this guy is a wizard. Yeah, you saw that stuff. He is a wizard. So he is a wizard, and he probably used some translation spells, like often call it. Because I make up stories in my head, and I often use that as an excuse when a guy travels to another world for people to understand each other. Basically the spell, what the wizard did here was use a spell that would make the other guy. So what basically made the spell does, when he speaks in his language, the other guy will understand as if it were his own language. So when he speaks in his language, the German guy will understand it as if it were German, and when the German guy speaks, aka Hulso, when he speaks to him, it'll sound like to the wizard like it's Liano, which was the wizard's language. So basically, they can understand each other through magic. Magic, the fellow said matter of factly. Also started to get angry for realizing the newcomer wasn't kidding. I'm Ard. I'm Ardy. I'm Ad R. I'm Ad Ir. I'm Adair no. I'm Adair no. I'm Adair no. I'm Adair no. Third rank wizard in King Bataro's service. You'll be the You'll be the Outlander. You'll be the Outlander Bologna spoke of when she summoned me. You will be the Outlander. Okay, it should be something else like you are the Outlander Bologna spoke of when she summoned me. Okay. You are the Outlander. Sounds wrong. Bologna summoned you? Not Meritois? Also wondered whether he figured out anything at all about what was going on here. Didn't even understand the chain of command. Yes, Bologna, of course. I dare know, took it for granted. Rather also did or not. Now tell me, what color did this star seem to you? Gold. Also answered automatically. Gold? Something, yes. But gold? I was enough to shake Ardner out of his air of snooty superiority. He stared down at the long straight nose at the German. Are you certain? Why would I lie? This doesn't make anyhow. At last, somebody who could understand also when he said something, and the cocksure son of a bitch didn't want to believe him. Also wonder if he can do onto Ardare Aderno as he done onto Solsef. Basically, maybe he could knock sense into that long, arrogant head if he couldn't insert it any other way. You didn't even know about magic. You didn't even know. That wasn't a question. Ardeno turned away and spoke to Valonia. When he did, his words were only gibberish also. His magic seemed as sensitive and as adjustable as a radio tuner. Basically, the magic only works when also magic for understanding only works when Ardeno is speaking to Holso and Holso is speaking to Ardeno. Basically, it only works between the both of them. Both of them. Like a radio, it only goes two ways. Holso couldn't follow Valonia's reply either. He sighed and shrugged. Who was the one he really wanted to be able to talk to, and he still couldn't. Life seemed to work that way. Ardeno gave his attention back to him. Tell me how you came here. Tell me how you came here. That seemed clear enough. Holso did. He sat on the rock. Couldn't see any reason why he shouldn't. Talking about it at least being able to talk about it. No, talking about it at last being able to talk about it was a release and at last being able to talk about it was a release and a relief. When he finished, Ardeno sketched another sign in the air. This one glowed the color of the wizard's shirt, green. The truth, he said, sounding faintly surprised. So it's like a truth spell. It tells you if what someone says is true or not. Why would I lie? Also asked again. For the first time, Ardeno looked at him as if he said something stupid. Outlander, man from another world. There are as many reasons as there are fish in the sea, for I reply. As many reasons as there are leaves on the trees. You could have been part of some new wicked plot the Granny have hatched. No, Valonia's broken. Word of Leno also could follow. No, the wizard agreed. Could have been so, which is why I apply the truth test, or truth spell. Or you could have been or you could go some big wicked granny plot. Or you could have been one of our evil doers grinning. Or he could have been one of our evildoers on the run, while the grinning on the run. Or a criminal, looking to cover your tracks with a tale too wild to be disbelieved. Or you could have been a disgraced man looking to start over somewhere far from where you were born. It's a strange story likewise. Not too hard to pretend not to understand or speak, but no, you're not pretending yet. Golnier, you still haven't said what that means, Halsey reminded him. It means your life and mine and everyone else's got more complicated than any of us might wish. Ardenno said. So basically, since he saw a golden star when he cast his translation spell, basically means he's the chosen one. The golden star means he's the chosen one. He's the chosen one, basically. Also wanted to hit him for talking in circles. Yes, that's just what wizards do. That's the wizard tradition. You gotta speak vaguely. I can never tell you the direct truth. Oh no, you have to go there, but you don't have to go there. You need to find something there to go there. Even that's too direct. You gotta go somewhere over the mountains, through the rivers, and over the dying lands. What direction is this in? Is in the direction of the selling sun. Just. Alright. Anyways. Also wanted to hit him for talking in circles. Decky the giant wizard, though, did strike him a smart. Ardenno went on, and it means you can't stay in this miserable backwater prose. Meritos grunted at that. Ardenno ignored him. I shall take you to Dramen. Seeing Halsey look blank, he consented to explain. To the capital. Anyways, that was chapter 1. Chapter 1 for now. Now, I'm really liking this book, so I'm going to read more after this, but after I end the video, but I'll try not to spoil it, so yeah. After I end this video, I'm going to read more of After the Downfall. Because often when people are doing, like, audiobook shit, they have already read the book, so yeah, but unlike other people who do audiobooks, they usually don't go on as long as usually don't do such long tangents as I do, so I'll just try not to spoil it, but yeah, I'm going to read more of the book. But anyways, tell me in the comments what you thought of the book. Did you think it's good? And did you like it when he popped those free barbarians with his MP40? Got a triple kill streak. And when do you think of him seeing a unicorn, and also the cover art where he's on a unicorn? What the hell? Tell me in the comments below. But anyways, I'm going to try to do release YouTube. It's okay. At the beginning of the video, I said once a week, but I'm going to try to do at least 2 or 3 times a week, because I'm liking this. I might do it tomorrow. I might not. I might do it. Yeah, I might do it later. Might make another video later today. I might do it tomorrow. What hell? Hell. I'll do it right now. To YouTube. So, bye.